this tail. Again, that's the 500 HT11. Again, Align pre-assembles this. There's no grub screws or anything on these shafts here. So we can take a look inside. I'll crack it open here so you can see. But there's really nothing for you to do inside here. Alright, everything's been done for you. Very smooth, friction-free movement here on these gears. So it's pre-assembled, makes the building process a lot easier for you. And this happens to be 36T, okay? So that's on the tail. Alright, so let's go ahead and pop this in here. Line this up. Alright, and that's it for tail box. Okay, we got a bag of screws here. Go ahead and take a look at this. Alright. I always sort them out. Alright. Those are all the same. Okay. Here's your boom here. There's a receiver for the nut. So go ahead and do this. We don't want to tighten them down right now. We just want to get them started just slightly. And if you want, you can actually press those in. Just push them in with your hand. So go like that. Push it in. Again, start it on this side. Just slightly. Okay. And that's that. Then we'll put this inside the frame here. Move your servo horn down out of the way. Slide this in. Okay. This thing may pop, which is not a big deal. Just make sure you don't hurt your servo there. And there are tabs within the frame. There's carbon holes cut out, and basically, I should say in the carbon there's holes cut out. So that way when you put the actual boom support mount here, it just clicks into place, locks in, you're 90'd up, you don't have to worry about bolts or anything before you even get started putting in bolts. Put this back in here, it just pops out, pop that back in, put this right there, okay, and let's Loctite these guys here. What I'll do is I'll get this little guy here. Just like this. Okay. If you built other helicopters before and you haven't built an Align helicopter, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised by the amount of detail that's gone into the assembly process and the sub-assemblies that are provided to you pre-built. It helps you to visualize what it is that you need to put together, and speeds the process. And, just looking at a diagram with a bunch of parts, you actually have a built subcomponent that you can reference, and then as you deconstruct, for greasing of bearings or making sure that you have Loctite on the balls, you're ensured that you have assembled your helicopter to your specification, and everything's Loctited the way you'd want it for your helicopter. That basically makes it so you don't have to set up anything as far as setting up the gap or backlash with the gear mesh. It's all done for you. And there's also little inserts here that actually plug into this aluminum piece, which also help in the interlocking process. So that's really state of the art as far as machine and design. That's really very innovative. So let's go ahead and Loctite those pieces back in. And then once we get done with that, we'll work on the yoke and the tail rotor hub there. So let's put some Loctite on this here. Whoop. Put that in. Okay. Put this on here like that. Alright, so that's spinning nice and free. Alright, what we want to do is check all these screws. Alright, and in order to do that, we need to disassemble. So let's go ahead and pull these off, because we want to make sure that the thrust bearings inside here are lubed. So we want to check that. Always check that. Okay. Alright. So what we want to do is get our grease and grease the bearings liberally here. And then on this particular one, I'll insert the Loctite directly into the slot here, so that way I don't get any on the bearing. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the inside there like that. And let's go ahead and push this back on. And then let's check this side. Again, we're lubricating, or I should say, greasing the thrust bearings on the tail rotor grip here. Should put a good amount back there because it is spinning fairly fast. And make sure you Loctite this piece. Definitely want to Loctite your tail. So again, I'm Loctiting directly inside of the hub, so that way I don't get it on my bearings. Put that back in here. Okay. Alright, so now we'll check the Phillips screwdriver. Or I should say the Phillips head screws here. Make sure that we get Loctite on these. So let's do that here. Okay. Okay, just snug on that piece. Same thing on the next one with the brass insert. Be careful on this one. A lot of times guys get, they actually get the Loctite inside of the shank part, which is the smooth part of the screw. You don't want that. That creates drag and causes problems for you and your tail and its performance. So what you can do is, just like what I'm doing, you get that small Allen wrench, put it directly in the threads, make sure it's small enough of course, but get it in there and put the Loctite directly inside of there. And that way it doesn't get on the shank portion and create drag. That'll make sure that your tail operates freely and ensures that your gyro can perform to its full potential. So just a side note there, some guys put it on and just drive it through, but the problem is that Loctite will carry through on the shank part, and again that'll create drag, and we don't want that. So on this part here we're going directly into plastic. That's why I'm not doing it on this this screw up here. So you'll notice when I do that, I put it directly on here. Okay. Just a small amount. And then we'll put that back in here. Okay. Just snug, and that's it. Do it again. Again, shank all the way, bring that screw all the way out. Put that down, and we'll put the Loctite directly inside of the grip, or the rotor hub grip there. Okay. Alright, should be more than enough. Flip that over. Okay. Alright, so now the hub's done. The other thing that you should check is the yoke. This piece here, this metal piece. We want to make sure that that's nice and free. But let's check this. And let's go like this. It's backing out. I don't know if you can see that, but it's backing out right here. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we Loctite this. We don't want that to back out during flight. Okay, there's threads, and if you look real closely, there's actually appears to be a little bit of machine oil in there, which is fine. But again, just like on the other piece, on the grip here on the shank, we want to be careful we don't get Loctite on the two inner bearings here. So what we're going to do is, on this one here, I am going to I'm going to use some green on this piece here. Alright, and this one I'll smooth with my finger, just a small dab there. And we don't want to get this near our bearings or anything, but I want to make sure that I apply a liberal amount of Loctite here. So get that in there, and once you have that done, we'll go ahead and bring the yoke back, keep this thing, the slider, against the bearing, and then we'll get this, let's see, get this going here, just 1 second. That, pull that forward, okay, see if we can get this on here, get started. Okay, try and again keep that slider piece away from the Loctite if at all possible. Okay. And use my needle nose here just to grab onto this. And then just slightly snug that. Feel it. Make sure if it's too tight, back it off. Check it again. Make sure. Check it. Make sure that make sure that that thing freewheels for sure. You want it to be as loose as can be, and you want to make sure you get Loctite again on the bearings. Okay, I'm gonna back that off a little bit more. Feel for play, because you don't want to have or induce slop, but at the same time you want it to be as free as possible. So, alright, that's good. Alright, then we have our Loctite in place. Now we need Loctite on the actual arm here. So let's go ahead and get some Loctite. Okay. And we'll get this. Remember, there's a small washer. Be careful of that washer. It can try and get lost on you. So we'll do this and start this bolt here. Alright, there's one other thing right here, which is the ball. It's loose. Let's back that out. Make sure we get some Loctite on this as well. Alright, same scenario here. Let me use this to get a little Loctite in there. And we'll put that inside. Okay. Should be good. And get that ball on there. Snug. Let's wipe off the excess here. Okay, once we have the excess removed, we'll roll that around here. Notice I didn't tighten this other side down. Just loosen it up, back it off just a hair. Should be able to get that ball in there. If not, you can take the whole assembly off if you have to again, but you should be able to just pop that in like I just did. Pop that down, that in, make sure it's just going in properly. We'll snug that down. And I want that to be nice and free, and I want this to spin nice and freely. Alright, so we have that done. Let's go ahead and get our tail blades on there. Get those tail blades on there. Okay. The tail blade, the leading edge should face the back. So that's the back. So that's how that should face there. Alright. Let's go ahead and put these on here. So let me Alright, so the front of your helicopter is this way and the tail is this way. What you'll notice is that the leading edge is facing back because the blade spins this way. It spins towards the back of the helicopter. You'll also note that if you're familiar with airplanes, rudder, just like a rudder, imagine this being a rudder of an airplane. When this moves to the left, the nose of the helicopter moves to the left. When this moves to the right, helicopter's nose moves to the right. So it's just like a rudder, so think of it that way on a conventional aircraft. So again, right and then left. So if you're just getting started, it's just something to know, that way you know what your actual helicopter is going to do once this is rotating, your tail rotor. Alright, that completes the tail rotor assembly here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the boom out. We'll get that started, and we'll get this off. This is where our vertical tail fin gets mounted to, and we'll get started with the tail here. Alright, but let me get those pieces together. We'll take a short break, and then we'll start on the tail and the process of putting together the boom. Alright, we're starting the tail boom section of the Trex 500 Pro, and we've just finished the tail. We have the main frame fairly complete. All we need to do is a few other details. But let's go ahead and get started with doing the boom here. So let's cut that open. This is a 500 FL T1. Okay, inside here there's a number of little things. So let's go ahead and pull everything out. Okay. Alright, so we have a boom, we have our torque tube, and we also have a rod here. So let's see. We got our boom supports. That's what those are right there, those two carbon boom supports. We have a push rod here with a metal sleeve. And there's our torque tube. And here's our pitch rod. This is for pitching the helicopter. And we'll show you how to utilize that. Let me get that piece here. Here it is. And basically this will go up at the top of your helicopter. When you're sighting down your blades, you can actually see the pitch of your rotor blades. So we'll need that later, not right this second. So let's go ahead and get this boom going here. Alright, first thing we'll need to do is get the bearing that comes with it. The bearing slides onto the torque tube here. And as for the measurement here, the recommended measurement, let's see, is approximately about 21.9 centimeters from the front of the helicopter here, or from the front of this torque tube here. So let's go ahead and measure that out. Let's see, 21, so let's go here, 50, 50, 60, 21, 60. Alright, let's take a look at this. Let's double check that number there. Alright, let me check. Actually, let me use my pitch gauge. Okay, so at about 210 millimeters back from the front of the torque tube is the spot where we're going to glue our bearing. So let me go ahead and I'm going to put a small bit of CA right here on the torque tube, and let's pull the bearing back. If you put too much, just get a small towel or something and just blot it just a little bit, thin it out, and then slide your bearing onto the location there. You want to make sure you don't get any of the glue inside of the inner race of the bearing. That will cause the bearing to lock up and not move freely, so we don't want that. So make sure that that's operating freely there. We'll let that set up and dry for a moment. Okay, then there is this rubber insert that will go on this piece here, and what that will do is that will basically provide support for the bearing and keep that centered. So we'll go ahead and let's see if that's dry yet. Pretty close. Let's see. I'll get a little kick around here just to make sure we're nice and dry. And go ahead and put this around the bearing. Alright. When you're sticking this into the boom here, you might want to lube this. You can use basically water, you could use a drop of oil, you can use Windex. It's pretty much up to you what you want to use. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get some water for this, or water, and I'll insert this. All right. I went to go get a couple of things. I could either use a lubricant for inserting the torque tube, or Windex. It's your call, whatever you want to do, whatever you have handy. I know a lot of times we improvise when we're out at the field. I'm going to go ahead and spray some Windex right in here. Just a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and insert the torque tube. Remember, one side was shorter than the other, so we used 210 milliliters. Pushes right in nice and easy, as it should. Make sure that that rolls freely. Alright, and then we have our rod guide that goes here, and then we also have our boom support clamp here. So let me pull this off, show you that. Okay. This is a self-tapping screw. Go ahead and drive this one here. Not tight, just to get it on. We're going to have to adjust it anyway. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get the tail mounted up here. Okay. And there's a hole in the back of the frame and also a hole in the boom, so you want to line that up. And once you have that done, there's a nub right here, and that basically pushes right into that hole, and that retains the boom from movement. Insert this piece here. Okay, you can utilize Loctite if you like on this one. Just put a small amount of Loctite. Okay. Go ahead and insert tail fin here. Okay. Alright. Snug. Tight fit there. Alright, as far as the next part of the process here, let's get our boom support clamp here. Alrighty, let's see. Actually, that should go here. Let's get our long Allens. Okay. aside for a moment. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and insert the boom. So the rear of the frame. Okay. You may have to turn it just a little bit so that it matches up. Okay. Alright, we have that set. And go ahead and put this piece on here. Get a little Loctite. A lot. Put a bit there. Okay, let's get this started, this horizontal clamp here. Get started. You notice I just moved that clamp there, this rod guide support. Reason I did is I had it after this and I wanted to put it in front. So we moved that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get these supports here on the side of the frame. Go ahead and get some, again, some Loctite. Alright, let's get some Loctite here. Yeah, that's why it's important to have a clean workspace there. You want to avoid all the obstacles as much as possible. It just make it a lot easier for when you're doing your build. So we'll go ahead and get this on here. On the rear of the frame, we had to put the Allen screw there. Just back that out. And you're going to want to use one that's slightly larger. And also, you're going to want to use a small washer. So you're going to use a 2.5 by 10. So that's what this small washer is here for. We still have those left over. Again, Loctite. Loctite, Loctite. So let's put some Loctite on here. Alright, we have one side there, and then we can start to snug this up a bit now that we know where we need to be as far as length. Alright. We'll do the other side, same thing. The boom support here. Actually, I almost forgot myself there. Need to use the longer screw there. So, again, the 2.5 by 10 is what you want to use for the boom support here on the lower frame. Okay, now we can tighten this down on the boom more securely, and make sure you have even pressure on both sides. Just watch the gap on this piece here, so just watch the gap. And we'll get this all squared up there, and then we'll tighten up the boom here. Okay. Alright, so the boom's on there. It's driving the front gear. It's connected via the torque tube. Let's just straighten this out, make sure everything's 90. Tail fin vertical, looking good. Okay. Alright, so that takes care of the tail assembly. Almost. Last thing you need to do is get this rod, your tail rod, get your ball ends on there. You can do both sides first, just like when we split this piece here, the slider. You can do it again for this rod, so don't worry about putting it through and then trying to screw on the ball. You can do it off the helicopter and then insert it without any problems. I'll show you right now. Okay. What I'm checking right now is the length of the rod based on the center of the servo wheel. And that way I can get close to the length that we're going to need when everything's 90 out. Servo's 90, the tail's 90 back on the tail there. Okay. Let's go ahead and alright, that should get us started. That'll give us a good starting point. Again, A facing out from the ball. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this on the tail. And then we'll turn this so so that it's unstable. Alright, let's see, we'll pop this in on this side. It's easier to hold on to and manage here. Let's see. Let's see if I can just pop this on. Use ball link pliers. I'm going to use my needle noses here. Let me just reach up from the bottom, support it from the back, pop it on. Okay, so that's that. And then, again, this piece right here, we want to open it up. And we'll capture the rod in here. So we'll go ahead and just go like that, pop it open. Okay. Then let's pop this on the back. Alright. So that's all taken care of now. Let's see. Okay. All right. So we got our tail, the actual torque rod to the rudder control from the servo. And next we will work on the motor installation and also the main gear install. So we'll do that in just a few short moments.